Welcome to the Creative Ascension Podcast. If you're looking for a space to fit in, this ain't it. This is a space for the ones who were never meant to. You know who you are, the rebel light leaders, the artists, the conscious parents, the soul-led entrepreneurs, and the unnicheable modern mystics. The ones who feel it in their bones that there's another way to live, lead, and create. Here, leadership isn't a strategy, it is embodied. Creativity is not a skill, it's your life force, and your life itself becomes art. This is where we break from conformity and really return to sovereign self-expression, where business is an ascension pathway. The body becomes the anchor, and your creative power becomes that thing that sets you free. The Creative Ascension Podcast explores embodied leadership, spiritual entrepreneurship, and conscious creation for the visionary leaders building the new earth. Each week, we dive into raw, real, and activating conversations with the ones who are walking it. The artists, the builders, the disruptors, the cosmic architects of the new paradigm. The ones like you who are choosing truth over approval, freedom over safety, and expression over perfection. I'm Debbie Lim, creative, visual alchemist, new earth artist, and this is your reminder, your body is the canvas, your frequency is the paintbrush, and your life is the masterpiece waiting to be lived. Welcome to Creative Ascension. I have got such an amazing, juicy guest for you today, who I think if we look at that intro, like she ticks every single box, if we were box tickers, right? It is my absolute pleasure to introduce Jenna Faye Madden, the founder of the reSOURCED Woman, a powerful guide for conscious leaders whose missions are expanding into their next evolution. Jenna's work sits at the intersection of soul, identity, nervous system, and mission. She helps women return to deep internal resourcing so they can hold their growth without burning out, collapsing into urgency, or abandoning themselves in the process. Her leadership is rooted in lived experience, coherence, and devotion. And the way that she guides women into becoming the versions of themselves that their work has been waiting for is nothing short of transformational. Jenna, it is amazing to have you here. I'm so excited for this conversation today and where it could flow, because we were just chatting before, and yeah, we do have so much in common, so many common values, and I knew I really feel it's the depth that you hold for your mission. It feels like this living, breathing organism when I feel into your mission, your work, your light. And I can feel also like your strength, your power, and we know that, you know, new earth leaders are forged in the fire, right? We become embodied through deep initiation, and so I'm so excited to hear from you today. So thank you so much for your time, for being here.
Yeah. Thank you, Debbie, for having me here. I can't wait to have this conversation. It's going to be a treat, I know, for everybody who tunes in to listen with us. And I think just even the energetic blueprint that it's going to put out into the field of this conversation, even for those who don't necessarily hear it, but they feel it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we get it, right? That this is a resonance, this is a transmission that goes out into the field, and who knows who will awaken on the other side of the world today because of this conversation, or start a garden,
Yeah.
or step into their soul work, or who knows. So share with us a little bit about your medicine for the work for the world at this time. So, you know, you use the word resourcing with the sourcing in the capital letters, which I just love. So tell us about what that means for you, what that looks like, how you came to be in the embodiment of that. I know that many of us that step into this kind of work around sustainability and healing as we grow and rise have had burnout, exhaustion, hustle, you know, so we've gone deep into the shadowlands of what we don't want anymore. So share with us a little bit about that for you. How did you become the amazing resourced woman that you are now?
Yeah, I love this question. You know, it really has, and you kind of alluded to this, it's been an evolution. And so what brought me to the current resourced woman in terms of like brand, embodiment, movement, of what that really represents, I feel to me, and what I'm really standing for is for the new earth women, like the women who are here to lead the new paradigm. I feel it's not only important, it's required for us to be more resourced really in all areas. Because if we're not resourced, then that typically means we're not supported. It means we're burning out. Like we don't have what we require in order to fulfill our mission, in order to move things forward. And when we look at this, say through a business context, but we could look at it through relationships and like any of the lenses, is like you can get to a point without being truly resourced, but you're not going to be able to sustain it. And that's the biggest thing that I feel like is the hill that I would die on, that I'm really here to stand for, that it's the how. It's like, how do we move through this transitional time? Is like we do need resources. Like we need financial resources in the current paradigm to like build the communities, to move the missions forward. We need to be resourced in our relationships. We need to feel supported. We don't need to be doing it alone. We need to feel emotionally and energetically resourced. Can't be burning out and feeling like we're holding the weight of the world on our shoulders at a time that can be pretty intense out there. And then you just get into like the day-to-day living and creating and everything else. And there's a lot of pressure on women right now. I feel like there's a lot of women, and of course there's men too, but there's a lot like are seeing beyond the veil. They're sensing the big changes that are happening. They're feeling the pressure to help birth and steward and create the new earth reality. And I feel like it's coming with a cost for a lot, whether that's in their mental health, their physical health, their ability to be present, whether that's as a mom, as a wife. And I'm here to say, like, that's not actually required. And we actually need the opposite. We need really resourced women in order to be able to hold it, in order to be able to anchor it. And what led me to that, because it's funny, the brand shift, sometimes the brand, it's like the movement, the things that, you know, they choose us, as we know. And so yeah, it's like my brand was soul meets strategy for almost a decade. And it kind of just died last May. I was literally driving with my husband and I looked at him out of nowhere and I'm like, I think soul meets strategy just died. But I knew that the resource woman was replacing it. And it immediately clicked. And it was like language I had already been using. My pinned posts were about resource woman, and it just like kind of landed. And I was like, oh, okay, here it is. That's what's next. So I didn't, burn it all down and start something new. It was really just a gentle evolution of my work going deeper. It had become a box within what my Soul Meat Strategy brand was, where my work is a lot bigger and more expanded than what it could really hold anymore, especially working with women a lot more on their identity and working on nervous system and vision and all of these things, that it's like it needed a different brand container to really hold what it was evolving into, if that makes sense. So that's what,
as you're speaking into that, when the soul meets strategy, what I'm seeing is like two converging points exploded and gave birth to like this kind of holistic mandala, this beautiful sphere, just like a ball, like
absolutely.
a bird, that's and I just so agree with you on this. Like as I was saying before we jumped on, I've been going through all my work and doing back end stuff and techie things, but rewatching everything and realizing, holy crap, like my baby Soul Seed, I was marketing it as a business program, and it's like that's one tiny aspect of what it is, because we're birthing New Earth lightly. You're exactly right. This affects every single aspect of our life. Has to be kind of regenerative, has to be sustaining, so that we can. We have that, it creates trust and faith, doesn't it? Like you say, the depth and the anchoring of like, I'm doing this, like this is my mission. There's no question about whether I'm doing this or not, whether it succeeds or not, if I get the money and all of that conditional stuff. It's like I'm evolving as a whole person, because that's what my soul has chosen to do. And as we both know, opening your own business will ascend you faster than any other pathway.
Yeah. And like, you mentioned having the source part of resourced woman in caps, and like to me the RE really represents regenerative. Like it needs to be sustaining, it needs to be regenerative. And as someone who is a huge advocate of sovereignty and like self-led leadership, because we can be resourced, but we still have to be self led. Like we still need to be leading from our highest self, not from the external, whether it's the mainstream and the fear propaganda, or if it's other coaches telling us what to do and not do. It like really has to come from our own source and our own connection to source at the end of the day. And so that to me is really what it represents, is this like regenerative energy that's so, so important, because otherwise are we really resourced if it isn't sustainable? And bringing in our actual connection to source and our highest self, like first and foremost, as we make these decisions. So it really comes back to like the internal, so it can translate into what we're meant to do, how we're meant to lead externally, into the world.
Yeah, and that's such an important piece, because this is the piece that gives us the permission to do it differently. And that's what we
Yeah.
need, right, as New Earth Light
Yeah.
leaders. It's, and I've been probably guilty of shiny object syndrome and going here, going there, and coming from a place where I was feeling I guess ultimately it's a journey of sovereignty. I'm not even going to say it was coming from lack. It was coming from so many things: seeking, curiosity, being a lifelong learner, personal growth, like loving evolution, transformation, but also like maybe that person's got the answer for me, or maybe there's something I'm missing. And each time that I go learn the opposite of that, that's my human design. I go and investigate and realize, oh yeah, no, right. But it's every time I do that, it opens up so much more expansion of my own internal trust in my own channel, and
Yeah.
it's really activated in me a totally new way of leading women this year as well, where it's not so much about this is the way that's worked for me. Here's what you need to do. It's just like, how do you want to align your business to like your highest timeline for your life? Like, what do you actually freaking want? What do you want? And how do you want it to feel as you do it? And like those things becoming so much more important. Um,
Yes.
yeah.
I think this is where like the midwifery energy really comes in too, like of like being business support people, where when things are coming through, I think the old paradigm was so much focused in, like you said, here's what I did, let's apply that to you. And I'm like, that's
Yeah.
so old paradigm and old code, because number one, we know that that doesn't really work a lot of the time. Of what worked for me might not work for you, and so on and so forth. But like the way you just described that to me is really the new way, where it's like what are you creating, what are you birthing? Because otherwise I'm like, that would be like saying like, here's what my kid looked like what I gave birth, or something. What do you want yours to look like it just doesn't it doesn't make any sense at all.
Ridiculous when you hear it like that.
Silly.
It's like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And this feels exciting to me as a creative too, because it just feels like
Yeah.
there's no edges and no borders and no limits. And I get very tetchy when I'm showing methodologies, and then,
Yeah.
there's a point where it's like, but what about me and my own unique expression? So this is really
Yeah.
exciting. This is, and it is sovereignty, right? Sovereignty 101 that people, and especially around people tapping into their own channel. I love that. I've moved into a spiritual business, it's not even a business space, it's a spiritual container. And I've had like more radical shifts in my business and in my energy in the last 2 months than I have over the last year, trying to focus
Right.
on like, I'll nail the strategy and the and the marketing, because as we know, this is so much more potent, right? Because yeah,
Yeah.
we trust ourselves, and we become self leadership is true freedom to me, right? It's my highest value is freedom. So it's like got to be that thing, that measuring stick against decision making. And that's one of the biggest handbrakes. I don't know, what is it, some of the biggest blocks that you see women coming into your world with? For me, a lot of them, especially the new earth leaders, hold a lot of fear around their power, around and so they create these cute little methodologies of living that
Mhm, mhm.
and say that they don't know or they don't trust themselves. And there's a huge, but it's really, I think,
Yeah.
underlying that a huge fear of the power that they actually carry. What do you see in
Yeah,
your
I agree.
spaces?
I would definitely say like the self-trust and the really honoring and connecting to their power is definitely, I would say, in the top ones. I would say one of the other biggest ones I see is what I call like decision fatigue. And I feel like it kind of can be that shiny object syndrome. And I think there's like a spectrum for it, because I do feel like sometimes we make ourselves wrong for the fact that we're here to be explorers and architects and like learning through both success and failures. I think sometimes there's a little bit too much dogma in the industry that it's not okay to do that. And I also feel like there's a lot of like over functioning and almost over creating in a way in business, that it leads to this like fragmented energy for women, that they have all these things vying for their attention. They have all these decisions that kind of need to be made. And I think then this connects back a lot of the time to the self trust and the power piece, because I'll talk to women and it's like I've found a trend that the faster someone can make decisions and move through the decisions and trust decisions has like a way bigger correlation to their success in all the ways than say someone who's like following the perfect strategies and processes and being a good little student. It's like, if we can make the decisions and we're not humming and hawing, like, should I price it at this? Should I price it at that? Should I launch this or should I do that? Where should I put my energy? You know, like all of these things I feel like really, really dilute things. And then stuff just starts to feel like heavy and complicated and all of these things, when actually it can be simple. I don't always want to say easy, but it can be more easeful.
Frequency of ease around it, meaning I don't have to loop and overthink. And for me, this decision-making thing has been massive, and it's something I've spoken into inside my spaces a lot in the last year. And I reckon there's been, you know, what I feel is it's a lot around our healing of the toxic feminine and integrating healthy masculine energy back into us. And this is, you can feel the different frequency, I think, in these leaders. Like I feel it in you, and I think I've really anchored it in and through my body, this this ability to stabilize and anchor. And I know that that's actually what my purpose is here as a grid worker too. So of course that makes sense that that's happening in my business. So, you know, I did the opposite of like, well, I brought the old paradigm with me when I launched my spiritual business. I was just like, right, go. The decision making was great because it got me out of half in, half out burnout, like spinning my wheels. But then it kind of like swung to the extreme of just like, I'm going to make it happen. Like, you know, very, very hustly, doing all the hours under the sun and really being still a slave to my business for the first year. So I was like, oh, okay, I need to find
bring it back to freedom.
Find another way. What is another way? And then went into a real receptive, divine feminine frequency for a year, where I opened up to like this thing called the True Abundance Codex. I'm like, the money was great, but that did not fulfill me because my body hurt. I was tired. I was not present with my kids, like all of the things, right? So it's like, I want to be present with my children. I want to have a great relationship with my husband that grows in intimacy, not going in opposite directions. I want enough, you know, money to feel resourced. I want to heal my body. I want to heal my and I have actually, you know, I want time to create and play. And it's been like this, you know, like a clay sculpture that's been molded over the last 2 or 3 years. But living proof that it is fucking possible, because it's such it's the biggest lie, isn't it, that we as women have to trade off. We will have to trade this for that.
I remember one of my early mentors, like when I left my corporate job, I became a personal trainer, then a nutrition coach, then a Reiki master, you know, and it's like, as it happens, the evolution. And so in those like earlier days, this was close to a decade ago, which is crazy. One of my teachers at the time in personal, she was like, I was like, buying up all of her stuff. like I took her personal training thing, but then she had nutrition thing. She had all of the things. I'm like, sign me up. I was like a sponge. So I signed up for everything at the time. And I remember sitting in, it was my first ever kind of mastermindy type thing. And it was in person, and I was going to her house with these other personal trainer people. And I remember her sitting us all down, and she's like, all right, so we need to get clear on your sacrifice plan. Like, I think I died inside when she said this.
She was like, this is you have to, so what do you
she's like, you have to trade this for this. She's like, you want to have success and keep your health, well, your relationships are going to suffer. That's just how it is. And I just remember contracting and going like, fuck no, this doesn't feel So actually, you know, it was a total gift because it showed me what I don't want. I find for as women, a lot of the time we get more and more clear by having experiences of what we don't want. You know, it's like, I always think of dating. It's like we date someone, we're like, no, I'm not really into narcissists. Okay, like, what do I want? You know, we have these experiences. We're in business. You know, we have weird, crazy business coaches or whatever. And we're like, no, not really into that. That's not in resonance. But all of those things bring us so much clearer and closer to like what our truth is in all of it. And I feel like that's like a big moment for me at the time where I was like, no, I don't want this. I don't want to have a sacrifice plan.
Sacrifice plan. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
And most of us are living that out unconsciously, right? And so this
exactly.
is a huge piece to tap into, especially as we're,
Yeah.
a lot of people are talking about new earth frequencies and 5D without maybe thinking that it's not about all the magic that we do out in the quantum realm. It's about how we actually live day to day in our lives and not being available to be the sacrificial woman anymore. And
Yeah.
that came through to me so loud and clear. Like it was one of those kind of spiritual lightning bolt moments, I call them, where it's like I get these whole body jolts and I feel like I'm given a whole entire codex, which takes years then to unravel. Like, what is this? But it was during the lockdowns. I remember it. I was doing some breath work or some yoga in my little front room there, and I heard it so loud and clear. And I tell you what the timing was in the human world was, I think it was like Mother's Day or something, and I was on Instagram and there was all these posts about the woman, like glorifying women, mothers, as the sacrifices that they are, everything they have to give up because their life is about their children and their family. And that's something, this rage within me was just like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. Can we not celebrate that quite so hard? I look around the examples in my life and I see women that have never followed their passions, women that have never found their voice, that are living in these, living in marriages where they don't have a personality really. They're a
Yeah.
function of service. And like, this is like, one decade, one generation ago. And it's,
Hmm.
so we're still living with so much of this on the planet. And so I heard from Source, it said to me, you get to have it all. And I was like, what? Right? And at the time in my life, it certainly didn't feel that way at all. So I had my major adrenal burnout and, and really wasn't in my body. So I could, like, as much effort as I put into the world, nothing was really landing. So I was just like, okay, well, if that is the case, show me how. So it's been like a 7 or 8 year journey of like reclaiming all of these pieces.
And I think so many of us end up in this like adrenal fatigue state, which I was severely in before myself. And I feel like one of the other biggest factors too was embodying a lot of the like good girl, people pleaser archetype, which I think comes back a lot to this like sacrificial kind of energy. And that was like my whole identity, even before my awakening and my business. Like when I met my husband 10 years ago, I was like on such a different timeline. I mean, I was in corporate and all that, but I was in an abusive relationship. My friends nicknamed me Mother Jenna. I'm like, that's not good because I was just taking care of everybody. I was avoiding my own shit at the time. And so I was taking care of my ex, who was a man child, his son. So I was a full-time stepmom. I was taking care of both of my parents with like role reversal relationship dynamics. And then like all of my friends. And it was like, well, no wonder I was like 70 pounds overweight in a job I hated, like totally just drained. That was like my first adrenal fatigue. And that was before I even knew what that was. But I didn't realize, like, as I started awakening and kind of unraveling from a lot of that, I left the relationship, I left the job, like, got my mom her own place instead of me taking care of her, all of these moves. But I didn't realize when I started my business how much I was still in that energy. And so I would take clients and I was still in this like kind of low key savior complex, signing people who I wanted it more than they wanted it for themselves. I was available. People could literally schedule Zoom calls with me at 3 a.m., which was like scarcity energy, like it was crazy. Like I was just so available because I thought like that was my value, was just being like available for everybody, anyone, anytime. I laugh when I go back in my old folders cleaning up stuff and I saw one of my first like coaching package bundle things and I literally wrote at the bottom of it and it was like no boss babe left behind extended triple payment plans available. And I would have someone message me for like a $100 program and they're like, I can't afford it. I'm like, that's okay, girl. We'll do $1 a month for the next, like it was crazy. So anyways, I like lived the extremes. And then, I laugh now, but then there was still like subtle little hooks of that for years. I'm still unhooking,
It's a couple of my clients that are, have been through my programs and received all my work, and they know my inner world, and we collaborate now, and they help me on retreats, and like it's amazing. And they're just like, oh, I just would never have thought that about you, Deb, because I share with them what's going on, and and I'm like, well, it's my templating and it's my patterning, right? It's what makes me so good at helping other people with their energy leaks and reclaiming their sovereign energy. And a lot of people can get into imposter syndrome about that, right? But it's like that, that golden ascension spiral, right? It's always going to come around in new level, same devil, I say. But it's like you've got so much more awareness now that you actually become the master of that thing. For anyone that thinks, oh, I can't teach that because you're never stuck in it. As long as you're moving with it and working on it, it becomes like you're the gold, right? That we're here to share. So were there any like big highlight points or like biggest, what do I want to say here? Pieces of your journey that really stand out to you, those big reclamation moments that helped you to tidy that all up, or was it really just a gradual thing over time, or both?
Both, I would say. There was like some macro moments and then like a whole lot of like micro moments mixed in, because I feel like there were like the key points. Like the first thing was like leaving that relationship that I was in, and that was like 11 years ago. That was like radical, and it was the kind of thing people didn't believe even I was like leaving it, because it had gone on for so long. I don't think I believed it, but I had this just higher self voice where it was like, this is the time, like you got to actually end this thing. And it ended up having to end with a restraining order. It was like very dramatic. And then there were other big things like leaving my job, and that was crazy. Like I didn't have savings, I didn't have like a client base, I had no idea what I was doing, so that was really crazy. And I just kind of got more crazy. It's like for as time went on,
it's right there, right? Just get more crazy. You do have to be a bit crazy.
I just got more crazy because I was so comfortable being uncomfortable for so long, in terms of like just living a really, really kind of mediocre, unhappy, unhealthy life. And it's like I flipped the paradigm on that, because then I got comfortable being uncomfortable, but like in a crazy way.
Jenna, like this is massive. Because I've witnessed clients come through my spaces where there hasn't been enough discomfort to really catalyze them into what it actually really fucking takes to be all in on your soul mission. And I think, so let's expand this out, because I've been turning this over. It's like, is it just me? Do I believe that it has to be hard? But I'm just like, really is like kind of that pressure that makes diamonds, right? It's like, I think you have to, with any major shift and change, because I'm going through like recommitting to my body again, and it's been something which has been a cycle of committing and then uncommitting, right? So it's like,
me too.
But the way that I've changed things permanently, like there's been multiple things where it's like it's a permanent change now and we haven't gone back. You have to be so fucked off and fucking like almost in a rage of like, I am done. This is intolerable for me now.
Yeah, gotta get sick of our own bullshit.
Like I was totally unavailable to be half in, half out, and to be feeling like I was a constant failure, which I know like there's no such thing as failing, right? We're always growing and learning, but it was just like, I can't take this feeling anymore. I will do whatever it takes to crack through this like wealth thing, for example. So
I think it's huge, and I think that we go through these seasons, and I think on an ideal timeline, there's like meant to be these macro moments. And I think at least a couple a year on average, like where there's something that feels like pretty big, like a big decision or an identity shift or a standard or a boundary. Like I feel like we have at least one or more of those a year if we're continuously growing and shifting. And then there's like the who you are, you kind of alluded to this, like who you are when nobody's watching. Like, how are you leading yourself day to day of just how we embody? And then there's like the little things that come up that maybe aren't like big life altering kind of decisions, I feel like, that happen, but they're still really big. Like, as an example, in December of last month, it was like the getting through the last of the shedding of the snake energy, where I was just changing so much stuff. I'm like, I'm exiting this container. I'm letting go of my support coaches. I'm doing this thing. I'm doing that thing. Like, and they weren't really that crazy of decisions, but they just were stacking up, where I feel like it also kind of creates a macro moment sometimes when we just get real with ourselves and check in and be radically honest of like what's not working, what's not serving us, what's not serving our mission. And then back to that decision stuff. It's like we make then the decisions and the action around it. And I think that it just really drains a lot of women, that they sometimes get to the point of like ideation around the change. You know, we could do this around our bodies, we can do it around our money, our business, like, but then we don't do the action piece. So that's like so much more exhausting and hard, I think, than to just go through and do the hard thing.
I had this conversation with a client who'd been in my space for quite some time, and we do go deep and do a lot of like deep dive and deep healing work in my spaces as well as coaching. And so, but there comes a point where we've got to stop digging. And I said to her, there's actually nothing more that we need to unravel here. It's the doing, the embodiment of this, the implementation and the action is going to be where the biggest healing happens for you now, right? Because that's the final piece of this puzzle. And I do feel like, especially in the spiritual community, I'm going to call us out, there's a tendency to just want to go back and do more healing around things, and it actually just making the fucking decision and moving on it is so potent. I love my new mentor, Sandrine. She calls it moving like a dragon. And I'm like, oh, I love that. I come up with my own catchphrase that sounds more exciting than just fucking do it. Maybe that's it for me. It's like just a bit of just fucking do it energy, because it lightens the load so much. Like you said, like everything you just said, I was doing that before Christmas too. I was like, I'm actually going to change the structure of this container, and I'm going to let some people go and some things that I've been told that I thought that I need. It's like actually changing my mind on that. I can do it myself. It's okay. Leaving the container that feels more like a burden than a support. And that's like, oh, interesting. Okay, let's just do that. It opens up so much energy, doesn't it? So much capacity, so that you feel resourced, right? That you are now insourced. Yeah. You've got more energy to flow out.
And it like keeps the energy moving forward. Like, I'm always talking to clients about, I call it like pending energy. Like, so often as women, we're in this pending, reactive energy, and it can be in big ways, but a lot of the time it's just like the little things where we're checking our notifications too much. We're like refreshing our email when we send out a contract to someone, being like, did they sign yet? Maybe, like lurking their stories, why haven't they bought? They said they were going to buy. Or even just checking our stuff to see if things have happened yet when we put it out into the world. And when we're doing that, we're in this pending energy of like waiting for a response, which is kind of interesting too, because then we're kind of mirroring like the energy that whether it's one person or our audience, whatever might be in, where they have, they're undecided, they're in a pending potential energy, they haven't made a move. But I'm like, well, matching pending with pending is just going to create more limbo. So I always believe like we got to move the energy. So I say move on and market. It doesn't have to be marketing, but I'm like, if we're worrying about if this person or these things are going to happen, it's like, go create a new piece of content, like let it be art, go move your body, like whatever you need to do, but like move the energy, which kind of goes into like the feminine masculine energy as well, where I'm like, well, if somebody hasn't said yes to going on a date with us, stalking them and just like checking to see if they've texted us isn't probably going to be more polarizing and attracting to them. It's like, but actually like leaning back so they can lean in. It's like, it's the dance, it's the art. And so I feel like a lot of women have opportunity to master more of that dance that's happening of like, now I'm in the masculine, I'm making an invitation, but now I'm leaning back into the feminine to allow them to go into their decision, and just moving through that, rather than I feel like the exhaustion that comes from trying to stay in one zone more than it required, either in a like a more wounded feminine energy where we're avoiding all the masculine stuff, or too masculine, and we're like trying to push forward and hold it all and do it all. And I think a lot of women don't identify as like being hustlers anymore, but they might still be doing it. I think is one of the things.
But this is a kind of like hustle that will burn you out big time, right? And give you launch fatigue, you know, like if you look at the process of launching, however you configure that for yourself, it's like you get into the creation energy, like you put it out into the world. That's, yes, the creation energy like is the feminine, but the putting it out is actually quite penetrative, right? When we're in that like, here's the thing, and I'm serving you, and this is what I do, and I show you, and I make the invitation. And then it's actually, this is real unity stuff actually, because I'm seeing them both together now. Then there's like the masculine and feminine of receiving, right? So the masculine, like he goes and works in the field all day, or maybe your man who's got a 3D job, he comes home, it's done. He just lies on the couch, has a little snooze. He doesn't care about what's going on around him and all the unfinished stuff, right? And then as women, we kind of can get really caught up in that. That's that pending energy. So we need a bit more of that. But then also coming into like, you know, your divine feminine of like, I've made the invitation and then I just detach, I let go. I trust that whatever's going to come to me is going to come to me. I've taken all the actions I need to right now, and I'm going to just switch off, and I'm going to go and get into pleasure and receiving and like be in nature or go naked swimming in the river or whatever it is. Because it's just clean energy everywhere then, isn't it? And you're really working with, you know, magnetism, trust, faith, surrender, all the easy stuff.
All the things. I'm like, more of that, please. You know, and that is us like becoming more resourced. You know, sometimes women ask me like, okay, well, how can I do that? Or like, what should I focus on first? Because I think a lot of the time we go to like financials when we think resource, but like that's just one representation. That's just like one angle of being resourced. I'm like, well, if we want to be more resourced, like get outside more, get creative, like be more silly, put your phone down more. Like those things will have a stronger ROI than thinking too much, unnecessary amounts about like money and strategy and all these things. Not in like an avoiding, bypassing them way, but like relax a little, you know?
Right. And again, it's the same thing with the money. It's like, oh, she's creeping me out because she's like, oh, on me all the time. It's like, get out of my face. I love that. And I've felt that, you know, I've had that experience over and over. It's like I take the day off, even though I've got heaps to do, go play in my art studio, and then someone's like, I'm in, you know, it's just the way, it's the way that it works. And it's the opposite of what we are taught in 3D business world. So I'm so excited that we're both guiding people through this new way, because you get to live such a juiced up life. Like I just feel fulfilled and feel relaxed all the time, regardless of, you know, the bank account. That's still probably my biggest trigger would be that every other area feels really, really stable. So it's just that final piece of mastery for myself. But what's really helping is stepping into focusing more on what I do have. Like I bought a gratitude diary, which feels like such a basic bitch thing to do. And it's like, what if I actually just focused more on because I do believe in this true abundance codex, right? What if I just really place my energy there? Because wherever I place my energy always amplifies. So I've gone back to that, like the basic stuff.
The basics work. Like I have on my altar, well, I have multiple altars, but I have one that I kind of co-create with my husband in our living room. And we have a gratitude journal. It's just like a plain notebook. And we write like this one actually, because we have a few different ones, but this one I would call it almost more of like an evidence, like an abundance evidence journal. And I love it. And it's just something every month we start a new one, and it usually takes, you know, fills up a few pages, then the next month. So it's just this ongoing journal. And so I'll write like January, and we will write financial things on it, but there's other things that happen too. Like yesterday I signed up for a new like equity law sovereignty course, and I'm like, that's like so abundant to be able to do that and to be like learning this information. That's like a huge thing too, I think, of being resourced, is like knowledge. You know, like I like in my brand I had to think about, why am I talking about like hidden history and this and that? I'm like, but it's like it's information that helps us navigate these things. So I'm like, it's resourceful to have that. So I'm like, that's abundant. You know, we'll have a neighbor drop off a gift. I'm like, oh, you know, like that's so great. You know, we'll make a decision. All of these things, I'm like, it's all evidence, and it really helps anchor me, at least personally, into like, wow, I'm living such a cool life, such a great life. There's so much abundance and support and evidence of it like all around me in so many shapes and forms, and which has helped so much, which I feel like does ripple into like the financial side too.
I'm reminded of one of my coaches, and she used to call it her banking evidence
Love it.
journal. So yeah, I might just come
Yeah.
back to that as well. Yeah, proof that it's all working out. So if we know it's the opposite of how our brains work, right? We're coded to look for everything that could go wrong. So we're going against
Yes.
nature. But tell me more about your work with the earth, with sovereignty, with helping people really anchor a different way of living. I haven't gone into your Substack and read your articles. How many rabbit holes have you gone down in there? And yeah,
Right.
share with us a little bit more about that side of you because I'm really interested.
So, it was interesting. I'll rewind to, I feel like when it really kind of started, because when I was living my muggle life, I hadn't really like left my city. I wasn't on my awakening journey. So a huge spark of more of like grid work, sovereignty, like true consciousness, connection to the land was in 2017, so like 9 years ago. My husband and I got, and he was just my boyfriend at the time, got this download to just sell everything and just start like living in our car and start an online business. So we did, sold everything and adopted a husky Malamute wolf dog from a rescue, turned our RAV4 SUV into a camper because we're not super tall people. So when we took the back seats out, like we could indeed live in it and sleep in it anyways. And then we just started aimlessly driving around in Canada at the time. And I was very naive. Like I wrote on paper. I had no like digital assets or courses or audience or anything yet. But I was like, well, if I just learned how to sell like 1,000 courses 1,000 times, I'll be a millionaire. I'm like, great. Then I realized that we're driving around in the backwoods of Canada with no cell service. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is a little harder than I thought.
Just a
But
detail.
but it made me like really appreciate and understand like, okay, there's a business aspect that has to happen here, but it also like the connection I started to feel to the land, like just actually getting out of the city and the EMFs and my people pleasing paradigm and all of those things, and was just out in nature a lot with no cell service. That was like probably the biggest activator and
Mm.
connector. And at the time too, I was starting to work more in like the spiritual realm. Like I had done my Reiki training, and I remember when we left on our adventure and we couldn't really take anything. We're just like going in a little SUV, and I remember crying. I'm like, I gotta take my massage table. What if I meet people like in the forest or on the beach and they want a Reiki session? My husband's like, gonna have to put them on a yoga mat and figure it out.
I can down on the earth. She'll do the other half.
Yes. And like, he was a huge catalyst for me as well because he was really into Wim Hof, like cold exposure and like nature, like connecting with trees. And it was really cute. We first met, we made a website, spenceandjenna.com, and we just listed all our modalities. We'd been dating like 3 weeks, so we already had a website together. And I was like, I can personal train you. And he's like, I'll take you cold dipping. And I'm like, then we'll take you on a nature walk. Like we just listed it all out. Not that anyone was buying it, but the intent was there.
Yeah.
So that was really huge. Like going and doing like cold exposure, which I realized maybe it's my Nordic roots, but I was like super, it came easy for me. My husband was doing it to like heal some stuff in his hands. And so he'd go in for like 30 seconds. We were like chiseling out the ice in like frozen Canadian lakes.
Mm.
And he'd get in for like 10 seconds and be like, getting out. I was in there for 20 minutes. Like, and so that was a huge activator for me, was like working with the cold and like getting literally plunged into the earth. So potent. So all of that being said, that was like kind of phase one. And then we started adventuring a lot more. Like we drove to Alaska and back. Like I didn't totally realize that we were doing grid work at the time, but we were. I just wasn't really aware yet of these missions because we'd be called to the most random places, which is then what led to us going to Australia, Bali, New Zealand. And at that point, like I was starting to wake up a lot more, and I could feel more of what was happening, but there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of fear, and this was pre-COVID, but we had this sense, and I remember us like literally having conversations of like, things are gonna get weird in the world, and like Canada didn't feel safe, so we were like on this journey of trying to find somewhere that felt safe, but we couldn't really find it. So there was all this like fear of like, what if this invasion happens here, or this thing or that thing? Like we were very fear oriented. So when COVID kicked off, it was like, oh my God, we've been training for this. Like, this is, it was like all hands on deck, like, but still fear driven. And so it was like trying to run away. And after, after getting carried out of a store, a grocery store in Canada, while people screamed manslaughter for not wearing a mask,
Wow.
we were like, we're leaving this country again. So 5 days later, we left to try to go to Costa Rica. Long story, but it turned out to be a religious sex cult kind of place and not our vibe. So we ended up in Nicaragua. And in the turn of all of these events, I realized that we were still really driven by fear. It's like we were trying to run away from what was happening. And I was angry about what was happening and frustrated. Versus now, like we are still shuffling around on the grid, but it's a lot more about like new earth exploration and like what is aligned for us rather than trying to like escape lockdowns or this thing or that. So like that was a really huge, I feel like, catalyst on the path that opened a lot up though at the same time. Because when we went to Nicaragua, we actually went twice. We went once and then we were like shell shocked, came back. We're like, no, it's still not good here. Went back again. And it was funny because the second time, like hundreds of people like followed us. I had this document of like conscious people moving there, went viral, and my inbox was blowing up, and all these families like followed us, many of which are still there today. So it was this kind of cool thing to just see how our online world, business, even though that wasn't to do with business, but all these things were just kind of creating this bigger ecosystem and web that I started to see how much it was actually helping to create the new timeline of what was happening. And like the fear part was optional. Like I really don't feel much fear. I mean, I'm human, so it pops up, but it's not the key energy or emotion driving things anymore. But I had to go through like a crazy journey. That's like the Cliff Notes version to like purge this fear that was so deeply programmed into me.
I think that's it. And so many of us had that experience during that time of
Yeah.
many lifetimes converging, right, to clear the
Yes.
fear so that we could really anchor into what the frick is sovereignty and what is power.
Yeah.
And does that
Yeah.
person have power over me, even though I'm fear? Like I was scared too. We didn't know. Like Canada and New Zealand, for those of you that are out there in the world, many people say, "Oh, but you had that awesome lady running the show," and it's like she was a fucking tyrant. That woman needs to be
Yeah, it was
hunted down
bad.
and put in jail. But like she's been celebrated all over. She's out there living her
Yeah,
best life. But the media just obviously construed it in
of
such a
course.
different narrative. But very much like Canada, it was pretty gnarly what was
It was
going on in New
intense.
Zealand. So yeah, I mean, I had like at one point I was putting together like a go bag because I was like, I
Hmm.
mean,
Hmm.
where is this going? We didn't know. And each day things were getting more crazy. So I was like, how crazy is the crazy gonna get? And who do I trust in this neighborhood?
Well, it's crazy. We've got like snitch lines on the on people on neighbors. At least that was happening here. I saw the split. It was like this bifurcation of like dominant timelines, and it just really happened because I got married in 2019, which was like great timing. Because by 2020 we had maybe 80 people at our wedding, and I would say less than half of them talked to us because just our point of view was uncomfortable. So it just divided. And so it was really interesting to see at the time just, whoa, okay, there's a lot of different things that are playing out right now. And then to go through, like, I think the grief, was a big thing for a lot of people, like grieving
Huge.
what was, relationships, like so many different aspects where it's like everything got like really shaken up. And I feel like 2025 was like another big shakeup kind of year, and we're still in it, we're in the transition, so it can be pretty intense out there at times. And I think that's where like the inner game is so key right now. And then wisdom is helpful, like to help, I think, move through the fear. Community is obviously huge as well, and getting the things in place so that we can feel as safe and secure as possible. And like that's what I realized, even though I'm in like an open relationship with Canada, I'm here right now. But I realized like there is no perfect place. There is no perfectly safe place
Mm.
that's like immune from what's happening in the world right now.
And I think for me, the journey has really been about coming home to feeling safe inside my actual physical human body and knowing that I
Yes.
am a sovereign being and I have full autonomy over this, and that for me has created the internal safety that it's like, well, wherever I go in the world, I'm going to be okay. So if we rewind a little bit, there's so many great little pieces in
Yeah.
there. The first one that, I love it that you were out there being, we didn't know where we were going. Well, isn't that how every grid work mission happens? It's like,
Yes.
I used to think it's like, because I've seen things online, it's like, oh, but you have to have a big ceremony and you have to be doing this and you have to be doing that. And then realizing that as light workers, when we listen to go there and think that's random, and then, some magical shit normally goes down, whether we're aware of it or not, that is the grid work, right? Is us being on that land in the frequency of freedom, power, sovereignty, love, whatever it is that we are holding. So I love that. That's so cool. You guys went all over the place. I love it. And then maybe this had come from someone else that I read once, but I just thought, oh, this is so resonant for me, is that I think there's nothing that's going to awaken us faster than being in wild nature and being in the purest grids that you can tap into, which is why I'm really excited to bring people to New Zealand for retreats, because we have so many spaces that we can go to. Even for my business retreats, I've hired an Airbnb, and then it turns out to be this magical power portal, and there's a river and there's cliffs and you can see the rock gods, and then there was a waterfall, and then all sorts of things happen, because we're really like, the body just harmonizes, doesn't it, back into that frequency, particularly without Wi-Fi, because we used to go camping at this beautiful spot and there was no Wi-Fi, and I would have such a, I don't know, just the ultimate reharmonizing of all of my system. I could feel it so, so deeply, and you would come back into this innate rhythm. And now they've gone and put a cell phone tower around the edge of it.
Oh,
it's different.
yeah,
It's different
that's
now.
what I love. And I think I keep getting called back to the mountains in the area I'm at, because it's a very inconvenient place to get into and to get out of. So I generally like that, except on the times I need to get to an airport or something, and it's a journey, because I'm 2 hours from really any sort of substantial town or anything where that's 10,000 people, where there's bigger stores, and 6 hours from a bigger city with an airport. And I don't have cell service at my house. So I'm when the power goes out, there is no cell phone, there is no Wi-Fi, and I love it. I think that's why I come back here, is because it's this little tucked away area in the mountains. Not everyone's awake, but there's a lot of awake people. It's where draft dodgers came from the US during the Vietnam War. They came up into Canada and started communes and stuff up here. So it's very fertile land. It's tucked away. There's no cities. You have to take a ferry, drive on the ferry to get in and out of this area and take it across these lakes that have dolphins, and I see elementals here all the time. It's just such a special area, and I feel like that to me is some of the most important work that I'm doing, is just being here and going out into nature, working with the land. I'm that's as important as the online kind of stuff. And I think that's what a lot of New Earth leaders are realizing. There is the online component, and it's such a great vehicle and tool for us. And I feel why not utilize that? And it's not the only aspect. And I think that's where it's becoming a lot more holistic and integrated, of how we can really connect and work with the land and ourselves and our channel, and not feel we got to be on these devices all day in order to make the impact that we can make with our businesses and our mission.
Yeah, so amazing. And this is, I think, pivotal, and definitely something that came through as a bit of a channel here as well. We moved back to this place where we live now, and it's I wouldn't say a very spiritual place at all. I haven't found a single like-minded person in the whole of the town, but it's a really epic piece of land. Even when we were looking at it online, my husband said, look at that hill behind there, there's something really special about this place. As soon as I stepped on here, I was like, and I said, I will never move back into this town. I will never go back here. And as soon as I stepped in this house, I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. We're 100% buying this house. There was no doubt in my mind how we were going to make that happen, or why that made sense or anything. But it's almost, it's like this portal full of portals in amongst this really, toxic land. It's market gardens all around. So it's like the rape and pillage of the mothers, like on my doorstep. And yet we've got this QE2 protected block. Yeah, with all these like inner earth portals. So yeah, and trusting that I'm being placed here for a reason, and
Yeah.
it's a co-creation. And for so long I was like, oh, but I'm not a grid worker, I'm not qualified, I don't know, and like all this, silly stuff that we go through before we step into our true soul calling, and done so much work on the land here. But yeah, it was very much this message of like, it's actually really disrespectful to sit on top of the land, to perch upon her and ask for massive amounts of abundance to roll into your life when you're not working on that regeneration in terms of the energy that we pour in, and just the
So
divine
true.
reciprocity of nature. To me, that's what the heart of New Earth abundance has to be rooted in,
Yeah.
has to be reciprocal. And we're seeing a big crumble, I think, in quite a few different systems, and there's been a lot. It's been very loud in the coaching space in the last sort of few months, and I think we're witnessing a
Yeah.
lot of people waking up to the hollowness of just chasing money or the image.
It makes sense to me because I'm like, of course, consciousness collectively is rising. And then that ripples into things like, say, the coaching industry, where I'm like, the buyer consciousness of all of us in the online world, like that's rising too. And so like the standards are going up. That's why personally I've always been a fan. I think it's great that the coaching industry is unregulated. I'm like, I don't need some
Yeah, it's got to
regulating
be regulated.
force like to what pay my little fee, like no. I'm like, I'm not into that, but I'm like, we're becoming more self-governing and self-regulating because the standards are increasing. And I think that like that's what's been so cool to see in this, is like a lot of this like call out culture, like mean girl, all that stuff. It's just like kind of fading, but so is, like you said, the hollowness and like lack of depth. Like I see it just dissolving. Like it's not overnight, but it's really, like you said, it's been accelerating, I think, and there's just more awareness around it. And I feel like people are learning how to like talk about it and process it in a more emotionally intelligent kind of way. This amazing New Zealand client was here. This was a few years back, and we had this like New Earth leadership immersion, and she levitated. I'm like, where is she? I'm like looking for her at the Airbnb. We're in these mountains. I'm like, where is she? I find her in her bedroom, and she's levitating. She's like this far off of her chair. And I'm like, are you okay? She's like, I'm levitating. I'm like, I see that. And then we go out for like a full moon cacao circle with everyone, and one person shape shifts into a native elder in front of everybody in the circle, and everyone's like, did you all just see that? Or we're like, yeah. Like so much, it's like the veil is so thin, I feel like here, that like especially for those who are like attuned to their gifts and their psychic self, like it's crazy what comes alive here. And also I love hosting people, so always have an open invitation for
I
people to
want to
come
try
visit us.
levitating. That sounds cool.
Yeah, come on over.
It's been interesting. I've noticed a lot more people kind of coming out of the broom closet a bit lately, also on social media, and admitting these experiences that they're having. So it
Yeah.
excites me too that people are feeling a little bit more permission around sharing that kind of thing. That's you.
Yeah, it's like
That's
things
your
are being
magic.
normalized. Like culture is literally changing in real time, which is pretty cool to be a part of.
It is. I saw this most amazing thing popped up the other day. I sent it to my hubby, and it was actually what's his name? The rich dad, poor dad guy. Breaking the bank Bank of England has been asked to prepare for a. Is it going to come up? Oh yeah, for a financial crisis if a president ever confirms that aliens are real. So this is a guy that teaches financial literacy, and talks about
Yep.
mortgages and banking and, how to get rich. And this post is around like what could happen to the fiscal world as we know it if proof of alien life happens.
I
I
agree.
don't know about you, but I've got this sneaky suspicion, and I've always had it ever since I learned Reiki, and they were talking about it comes in the crown and it goes out the hands, and I was just like, where's it coming from? And I was like, I've
Yeah,
always had
right?
this sense that there's so much available to us all around us, energy, that we just haven't raised our frequency enough to tap into exactly how to source that yet. some people have, I
I
think, but
agree.
it's coming. We're remembering. So I'm really excited about what being resourced is going to look like in the future. Have you got any little theories?
Theories for days. I'm like a expert theorist over here. I think that yeah, I mean, on like the alien side of things, I would be surprised, genuinely surprised, if in my lifetime, like, we don't have some major progress on our connection beyond the human realm. And I feel like my intuition and what my guides have like really shared with me is that of course there are many other beings, and I don't feel like they're meant to like get involved, and do things for us. I really get the sense that humans, it's kind of like a bigger form of self-responsibility. Like, we got to figure our shit out, and we are. And so as the collective consciousness and the frequency is rising, I feel like there will be a threshold tipping point that I think we're quite close to the cusp of, where there starts to be, because of course people have made lots of contact with
Yeah.
aliens, but I feel like it'll become normalized, like it'll be happening on a much more mass scale, like there'll be actually more like public relationship type dynamics happening with other beings of light. And I feel like they're kind of just waiting for us to like get to the threshold where we could handle that without, because I don't think they want to create more chaos on Earth.
A big part of my work in the future, but I've also just realized that I was tapping into the timing around this the other day, and it was like it's at least 2 years away in my
Yeah, I get a similar
my
sense. It's
work.
not like a tomorrow thing.
Yeah, because even for myself, like I've got codes and visual art that I'm bringing through that activates the body on a molecular level to be ready to receive galactic connections, whatever that might look like on a more, physical level. Like many
Yeah.
people can travel and tap in on different dimensional planes, but yeah, when I asked my own body, it's like, no, if you were to see that now, like right in front of you, you would freak out. And what we don't want is mass freak out, right? So this is exciting. What a great place to
Yeah.
wrap up our conversation. Is there anything else that you would like to share
Hmm.
today? Any wisdom, any golden nuggets for the new earth leaders, the women out there that maybe aren't feeling fully resourced yet?
Yeah, the top things that come immediately to the surface is number one, I would say like the top thing, especially if someone's not feeling that resource. And I think we all kind of dip in and out, and like there's more work to do. And I would say the top thing to focus on is imagination work, I'll call it. Like, I think there's a little bit too much time being spent in like the 3D, what do I need to do to make shit happen kind of energy, and not enough time being allocated into like true imagination work. And not just imagination where we're like going through a visual in our mind. To me, it's a lot more about the feeling than just like whether we're writing it out or we're closing our eyes and visualizing like a situation. It's like we need to see ourselves in that situation. We need to feel ourselves in that. And so, like, say if somebody's not feeling that resource in their body, let's say, like, rather than the energy that most of us are putting our time in of all the reasons like why it's not working and shame around it and like frustration around it, and then like maybe focusing on other things instead, I'm like, well, what if we were actually really imagining and connecting into like, well, what is the version of our body that feels really good? What would that feel like? Like, starting to hold that more and on a regular basis. So like some of my like non-negotiable practices and standards, because I don't have like a lot of daily routine ritual type things. I kind of free flow, but it's like non-negotiable that I do some imagination work in the mornings and the evenings. And that might just be 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, but really like taking myself into that experience and that energy of, and like playing out specific scenarios. I think sometimes we go a little too broad and we're not taking ourselves specific enough out of like a fear, because we don't want to attach to something and then it doesn't happen exactly like that. But I see it more of just playing with possibility and getting ourselves into the energy, which then will ripple into like the actual day to day of like the decision making. It's like it's not a crazy concept. Lots of people talk about this acting as if, and operating at this higher identity and version of yourself. But I think conceptually a lot of us get that, but we're missing like the devotional practice of more imagination work to really feel and stay tethered and connected and kind of in exploration of that, which helps in the day to day. So my like number one prescription would be imagination work, which kind of goes into my other final thought advice, which is one of my mottos of hold the vision, not the circumstance. And I mean, that could be applied to what's happening in the world right now. I'm holding new earth vision and not getting too sucked into like circumstantial mainstream stuff, but also I feel like for our own personal mission and vision, number one, to hold the vision, we have to be connected to the vision. And this isn't like something you just do on a vision board once a year and then like fuck off with it. It's like over and over and over connecting and spending more and more time in like Delulu land is really important. And then that way you can actually hold and ride through that, even when, like I would say, like life is lifing, like shit will happen. That is just a part of the human journey and experience. And it's not right or wrong or good or bad, but we can move through it to anchor into what we actually desire, health, wealth, whatever, a lot better. And I feel like a lot faster when we're really prioritizing the imagination work. So that would be like my number one practice and advice for anyone listening to this.
Because I think as a creative, or maybe it's just something I've always had since a kid, is I've always had the ability to drop right into my imagination and feel it like my kids are like, Mom, you're not listening. I'm like, just wait, I'm in
I'm somewhere else right now.
Vision right now, and I can see the details of everything so crystal clear. That's just something that's always come naturally to me. And so I love this because I'm really that's how I really feel like creativity can serve us right now, is just opening up what is possible, right? And then we become like master quantum architects, really, because I was teaching my 5D Reiki class on time yesterday, and really like looking at the quantum physics and looking at how we as healers, we're so good at going backwards and reweaving timelines, but remembering that we can do that. Like, I don't want to say backwards, forwards, right? Because it's linear time, but just
it's not linear, but I get
understand, right? That we can also do that through the power. And I did say that. I was like, it's imagination. That's how
we're creating. It's like how we're creating as a dominant timeline in the collective. It's also, I feel like, how we're creating in our own day to day. And when I think about like the new earth side of things, of course there's action. Like we're all taking action, we're architecting, like things are happening and changing through that action. But also I feel like a lot of people aren't that connected to, or even really diving into like, well, what is their new earth vision? Like, what is that? Not just like a word that's getting thrown around. And I think a lot of us can feel like what that kind of means to us, of this better, newer, different reality. But I think it's really important to just be in continuous contemplation and exploration of like, well, what does that look like? How would I see myself interacting with that? Like, what is the vision I'm holding for humanity?
Yeah.
Even when it looks like sometimes it's not here yet or happening yet, because the more we're holding it, I feel like the easier and faster it's going to actually land as like the experience that we see as our day to day. Like, I know a lot of us are living it already, but like collectively.
Yes, and if we marry that up with the decision making and the get shit done energy, well, then it's aligned, isn't it? And it's precise and it's purposeful. And even if it'll still manifest, even if like it might look differently.
Creating the energetic template for it all.
Yeah, I love that. That is absolute freaking gold. And something I see people are really afraid to actually dream that big, to let the details flood in. I held an online process the other day on the 9/9 to, final snake shedding, and then we did like a visioning process at the end. And then I closed off the recording. So I was like, let's share, because once you speak it out, you've already started to bring it into form. And everyone was just like, they didn't even want to say, like, am I allowed to dream to have that? Because I can't see how I can create that. And the most fascinating thing, Jenna, was like 16 people on the call. And once we actually started, I was like, well, I'll go first. I was like, I saw a retreat center, I saw us in nature, I saw big community gatherings where we sat in a circle on the grass instead of up on a stage with lights on one person. And I saw waterfall, and I saw forest, and I saw people coming and going, and I was like, and then the floodgates open, and almost everyone on that call had a similar vision. Yeah, we've been given these these visions for a reason. Hold them. So I love that advice. So Jenna's advice, anchor into that vision, connect to that vision. That's so important. I think that's a beautiful place for us to end today. That is so amazing. So what have you got going on in your world at the moment? How can people connect to you, to your work, to your offers? Is there something that's really alive in your field that's like you're super passionate to invite more people into right now? Share.
Yeah, thanks for allowing me to share. I mean, I think the top thing is I always just love connecting. So anyone, if you're listening, I'm a real life person. I like to connect. Feel free to friend me and come find me. And I would say the things I'm most excited about, because I'm like, this is a good problem to have. I'm like, but I'm excited about everything going on in my world right now, which in some ways I think is a big theme of today's conversation, because a lot of the time I think we're not actually. I know even when I was cleaning up energy at the end of last year, there were things that run its course, like we're not meant to keep everything going all the time. So on that note, I'm really excited. I'm really pouring in to my networking calls. These are complimentary, happening once a month, where these are, a gathering of the forces, kind of like a think tank networking type experience that is specifically for New Earth women, because I really do feel like we're better together. Like we are meant to rise together. And I think a big theme of this year is like connection, quality relationships, collaboration, and like doing it in a New Earth way. So I'm excited to be facilitating and putting those together. So those are a free space to come into. And I mean, there's a lot I could share, but I would say like that's like the top thing that I would love to share with everyone. I know it's going to be getting better and just better and better is the quality of women. Like that, I think that's really the big thing, is coming together. It's like quality, not quantity. And some of the most amazing women and humans and leaders are like, yeah, I want to like come together and connect, which to me is such a great sign of like where we're going as a industry, we'll call it, for this year, where I feel like a lot of us who are on that frequency, it's like, who cares about the noise of like the, Rome is slowly collapsing. It's like, well, we're over here building and architecting the new thing now anyways. And I'm like, that's the vibe and why I'm so excited. I can't wait that you're going to be there. And I appreciate you sharing it with your community as well. Yay. Thank you so much for having me.
So amazing. Thank you to all of our beautiful listeners as well. Thank you for being here and for sharing this space with us today. If something in this episode stirred, opened, or resonated within you, I invite you to follow the podcast and share it with your soul family. Please send us some love and give us a 5-star review if you loved it today. Your listens, shares, and reviews help this work ripple outward where it's meant to land. For deeper connection, you can visit debbielimcreative.com or find me on Instagram at debbielimcreative. And I'd really love to hear what moved or awakened for you in this conversation today. One final reminder, you're not here to fit into the old world. You're here to birth a new one through your body, your creativity, and your frequency.